Welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back. And here we are. We're into the month of July, and it's another quarantine month. Hopefully, you're being smart and quarantining yourself and not being selfish and putting other people at risk or putting yourself at risk. So, um, shout out to everybody that's out there checking us out. You guys are appreciated. I'm joined by my special guest and a longtime friend of the show, Pat Donovan from the Pat and Aaron Show. How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Life is good. Trying to maintain, staying at home, trying to keep up with sports, man. It's been crazy. This is
What sports?
unprecedented times, and for me, just trying to, I want to come out of this quarantine as a better person. Whether it's I'm working on losing weight, working on some taking a few classes, uh, cooking, that kind of thing. And I follow you on Facebook as well, and I see you coming up with some dishes that I have some really good ideas. I want to try some of these ideas.
All right, I like it. I can tell you that some of the best stuff we've gotten from a goon who's a chef, actually the guy who created the Goon Squad IPA burger. He gave us the chili recipe, which my wife and I just fell in love with. She calls it the best chili she's ever had. We've been doing chili cheese dogs. Gave us a good clam chowder recipe, but also my specialty, penne alla vodka. We've done some different things. Listen, we can't go to the studio. It's a weird thing, right? A lot of people don't
Yeah.
love to go to work, but we love to go to work. We work with great people. It's a great atmosphere at iHeartRadio, and we miss everybody. So if we're going to be stuck at Aaron's Loft, which don't get me wrong, it's a great place, but if we're going to be stuck there, we might as well have some fun, do some stuff in the kitchen, and make some lunch as well.
There you go. Okay, so and I have to ask you. We're going to get to sports in a moment, but I have to ask you what is that one dish that you did not know pre-quarantine that you didn't know that you know now, and we can exclude the chili cheese dogs. We can exclude the chili for now. What is that one dish
Uh,
that you've got going on?
I was going to say the chili because it's the one thing that I literally had no idea how to make that now I make some of the best that I've had, right? The clam chowder, I guess, would probably be second after that again because we got it from a friend who's a chef and those guys know what they're doing in the kitchen more than we do. So we did some different things. We did kraut and ribs, but that's something I've done before. Again, the penne alla vodka is something I've done before. And most of the dishes more simple than those two dishes that we got from our friend Sean. So those were the two. The chili, I know we were going to exclude it, but the chili and the clam chowder, probably the two new ones that I've learned and love.
All right. Yeah, for me, it's been the I've been grilling a lot. I've been grilling, and a big thing that I do also is to really get in and try to do more with seasoning, like dry rub, and dry rub is huge for me. So seasoning is big, and right now, just being able to make my own seasoning, being able to eyeball something and saying, okay, there's paprika, there's this. Let me see if I can make the. Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I know that everybody, regardless of who you are, you always have that thing in the back of your head. How can I come out of this virus, this quarantine, knowing something that I didn't know? And for me, I think one of the big, I tried baking, but I gave up on baking because I just don't have the patience. I don't have a patience for baking. It's not going to happen. But you give me a brisket, you give me some ribs, chicken, lamb, whatever. I'm throwing it on the grill and I'm gonna make it happen. And that's kind of, I'm like, that's low hanging fruit. I've got to do better. So the a couple of things that I've done. I've been trying to do my own seasoning. Even I've come up with smoked salt, where you get salt, put it on aluminum foil, and you get like apple wood, cherry wood, and you basically put it out there. And what it does is it smokes, and it gets to a certain point where it almost melts, and then you kind of ground it down, and you can use it. And the cool thing about it is you can actually use it on like fish or chicken or pork chops or something like that, and you put it in your oven, and you don't have to go outside. You don't have to be dealing with the elements right now. and you get that smoke flavor. Bro. And so what you do, you get like kosher salt, or you get like you get a salt, and you want the granular, you want it, the granules, you want it, they're kind of big, to where you can just, you lay it out on aluminum foil, and you get your smoker up to, like, I don't know, 250, 225, 250. You let it go for about an hour, and it turns a little bit, like if you're using the Himalaya sea salt, it'll turn like a dark pink color. But I'm telling you what, man, it is amazing. It works. And so it's one of those things that I'm like, I want to try different stuff again. Like I said, I want to come out of this what we're dealing with, this virus, knowing a whole lot more than what I've known. Yeah. And you know what? I've even gone this far. Everybody's got a Peloton. Everybody, a lot of my friends, they've got the Peloton. I went out and got a Nordic track bike, and I know it's a small fortune, but it's, yeah, and it's cool because it has the incline and decline, and if you're doing the spin classes, because I always love spin classes. If you're doing the spin classes, they have like where you're following your spin instructor over mountains. You follow your instructor. Like, I've done Thailand, I've done Barcelona, Spain, I've done Utah, and they have different courses that you go through. They've even got a Tour de France course that you can do. So for me, my yeah. Hey, bro, it's 100, and it right now it's what, 110 today. But I'll be done passed out. uh, no, that's not happening, man. I want to try to get over to Sedona, man. That's one of my goals, is to, yeah, Sedona is beautiful. The missus, her family lives in Sedona, and we get to go up there, and we don't have to worry about hotels or anything like that. And there's so much to see. I mean, just so much culture. And I mean, when you talk about like actors and actresses and stuff like that, I mean, there's just so much history with Sedona, man. It's just fun to go up there. There, there you go. So, and I want to kind of jump over to, kind of Bucks news, and you guys, again, you guys do a great job. Pat and Aaron's show is amazing. I love listening to it. I have it in my rotation. I haven't gotten to talk to you since Tom Brady's come to town. What are your thoughts? I mean, what do you think about all this? I mean, is this a positive move? Is this putting the Bucks in a good situation right now? You and me both.
Is if he completely changes the way that the franchise is looked at, not just today, but moving forward, right? The way free agents are going to look at this team differently. Like, well, if Tom Brady picked them, maybe that's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
location. And I'll tell you what, I thought there would be an enormous impact with Tom
Uh-huh.
Brady coming to the Buccaneers. I didn't realize just how big that impact would be. I didn't realize I'd be doing somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 interviews around the country the second he signed with the Buccaneers, right? Within the next 2 days, I was on the radio constantly all over the country talking about Tom Brady and his impact. I didn't realize we'd be talking about Bucks fans having trouble getting onto the website to try to purchase season tickets. All the things that I thought would happen here with Tom Brady have happened kind of tenfold. So I think it has been a positive thing. And when I look at this offense, and again, I was a big Jameis Winston supporter. When I
You and me
look at this
both.
offense and all the things that they did well, despite the fact that all too often they were pulled off the field by a mistake, pulled off the
Mhm.
field by a turnover, when you think about this offense and all those weapons and all the things they were able to do, just being efficient, it makes them really dangerous and really tough to beat. And if we know nothing else about Tom Brady, we know he's going to be efficient. So I think it's a great move for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy's a consummate professional. Um, it took me a long time to, get to actually buy into it, and I had to, you know what, I had to take a week off. No podcast, just all 22. Look at the New England Patriots. Look at how Tom Brady performed with lesser talent, because I can tell you right now, and I'm not just saying this as a Bucks fan, but when you look at the supporting cast that Tom Brady has right, it's tough to come up with that.
I'll tell you the guy who is quietly in a better situation, at least for me, and that's just Drew Brees. Because I think you're a little bit better at running back when you talk about Alvin Kamara. And listen,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Thomas is a freak. Michael
Yeah.
Thomas is a freak, dude. And you know what he's never had in his life? He's never had an Emmanuel Sanders. He's never had that speedster on the other side of the field. I
Mm-hmm.
think Emmanuel Sanders is going to be problems for the rest of the league. And he's going to make Mike Thomas even more of a problem than he's already been. As much as I don't want to say so, I absolutely love that New Orleans Saints offense. And I think if I'm Drew Brees, I love looking around at all those weapons and how much better I think a simple move like getting Emmanuel Sanders, an aging guy, but still a speed guy, can make for that defense. I mean, sorry, for that offense. So for me, I think Tom Brady's in a really, really good spot, probably as good as just about any in football. But if I had to pick one offense, one quarterback who might be in a little bit better a spot, I think Drew Brees, again, when you see what Michael Thomas has already done in this league without without a guy like Emmanuel Sanders on the other side of the field, I think
Uh-huh.
that team's problem. I think that team is a problem this year.
Yeah, I can't argue with that point, and again, I was actually on a New Orleans Saints podcast last night, and we discussed this. We discussed, the moves that they've made to put themselves in a position to get to the playoffs. And again, uh, I like what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have in front of them. When you talk
Yeah,
about OJ Howard, you talk about a healthy Cameron Brate. You talk about, Mike Evans. You talk about Chris Godwin, and I mentioned Chris Godwin last because he's one of the guys that I expect to make these big moves this year. And again, you've got a Tom Brady here. And the one thing that I will say, and I may be wrong here, I may be one of the few that believes this, but I think Tom Brady will have some sort of autonomy as the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that a lot of people haven't had. And the reason I say that is he could have gone to a lot of other teams, but when you look at the supporting cast again, and you look at what he could potentially do with this, it's incredible to see a guy who is a good decision maker. Here's a
yeah.
guy who takes care of the ball. Here's a guy who makes everybody around him better. And the Buccaneers have not had that. I'm trying to, and I don't know about you. I'm trying to think back to the last time the Buccaneers have had a starting quarterback that has been available in that situation.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know if they've had one. I don't know if they've had one. I love that you
I,
brought up Chris. I love that you brought up Chris Godwin, by the way, though, because I think that what makes the Bucks sneakily dangerous in a way that, like, they could be really good or they could be the best team in football. And the reason why I say that, and I don't think they will, but the reason why I say that is I think they've got several young players who are ascending. You talk about Vita Vea and the leap that
right.
he took last year. But I think on both sides of the football, you've got a guy that you look at, and within his position group, he's got a guy that's so good, you almost don't dare say he might be better. but he might be better. And on the defensive side of the ball, we've seen what Levante David has done for so long. But when I look at the end of last season, when I look at what happened with Devin White at the end of the season, when that young man started to get healthy, started to really figure out the defense, he'd have a great game, and you'd go, "Wow, that's the game of his career." Until the next week, and you'd go, "Wow, that's the game of his career." And then the next week, you'd say it again. He got better and better as the season went along. And I won't be surprised, I really won't, Eugene, if at the end of this season, we're talking about Devin White being the best player on this Buccaneers defense. And you flip to the offensive side of the ball. And again, when you talk about Mike Evans and what he's done for this football team, I think it's hard to even be able to try to make this argument. But I think at the end of the year, it won't be a shock if we say that Chris Godwin is the most complete and maybe the best wide receiver on this football team. And when you have two guys with players at their position who have been really the best at their position in the history of this franchise, except for Derek Brooks, obviously. I'm not putting Levante David in that class. But outside of Derek Brooks, there's nobody better than Levante David. And when you look at Mike Evans, there's probably never been a wide receiver better than him. But on both sides of the ball, you've got a young player that you can go, you know what, at the end of the season, it wouldn't be ludicrous to be saying that they're the better player at that position. When you have that kind of depth, that kind of talent, those kind of young, exciting players that I think are going to take a huge leap this year in Chris Godwin, in Vita Vea, in Devin White, you've got a team that sneakily can be not just really good, but the best team in football.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw a name out there, and I know that I'm going to get crucified for saying this, but Ronald Jones.
I like it.
Ronald Jones is my hot take. He's been my hot take on all the offseason. The fact that he's in Arizona, the fact that he's been working out in 99 to 100 degree heat and in trying to better his craft. You know, the fact that, you know, he's working out and he's, you know, what the leap he made from Dirk Cutter and what Dirk Cutter did with him as a rookie. And then he had the do-over and he was able to come out and make the most of his opportunities. I really believe, and you know, I've said this before, I really believe that what he did was it was incredible based on the amount of carries he had. He had to split snaps with Peyton Barber, and he made the most of it. He's a violent runner, and you know, and one thing that really frustrates me is how good his hands are, but he never gets the credit for how good he can catch the ball. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't look natural the way he catches the ball. I promise you, this year, and again, this is one of my hot takes. This is one you know, maybe it's out of the world, and you know, again, it's on video. I'm putting it out there, but I'm telling you, this is a guy that you have to watch. Is Ronald Jones, just based on what he's doing. You've got a quarterback that comes in here that takes care of the ball. This gives you more opportunity to run the ball. This is there are opportunities that will be out there, and just him out of the backfield, him catching the ball, speed and space. I really believe that Ronald Jones is going to surprise a lot of people.
There are some things I still need to see from Ronald as a wide receiver. Having been, until they gave us the promotion to the midday show at WDAE, having been at the practices every day and seen just way too many uncomfortable situations with him trying to catch the football. I'm not 100% sold that he's there on that. But that said, you're talking about a guy in Ronald Jones. And I do want to say this. You brought up Derek Cutter. I think Ronald Jones's failures as a rookie had a lot less to do with Dirk Cutter than they had to do with Ronald Jones. And that doesn't mean that he didn't care. It doesn't mean that he wasn't trying hard. A lot of people just look at a move to the NFL out of college football like it's the easiest thing in the world. But guess what, everybody? It's not. It's difficult to play professional football. It's difficult to move across the country as a young man who doesn't know anybody or anything on that other side of the country. There are a lot of things that, in my opinion, overwhelmed Ronald Jones in his rookie season. But you know what? I don't care. Because you know what he did? He worked hard. He bounced back from that. And we saw some really good things last season. And again, I think it's a lot more to do with Ronald Jones last season than it was to do with the coaching. But I'm excited to see that next step for this young man. And when you talk about working in Arizona, yeah, he might be doing that, but he's working Tampa a little bit too. And we've heard Tom Brady has been very, very impressed with Ronald Jones. I like the addition of Bond in the draft. I think that I wouldn't be disappointed to see them add a little depth at that running back position, but I agree with you that I think Ronald Jones can have a very big year this year, although I'm not quite as sold as you are on Ronald Jones as a wide receiver out of the backfield. I know what he can do with the football in his hands, And I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities. And Eugene, you know this, right? You can go too tight, even three tight in this offense
Yeah.
and still be dangerous through the air because you've
Yes.
got Cam Brady, you've got OJ Howard. And how about being able to say that whatever you get out of Gronk is just icing on the cake? Whatever you get out of Rob Gronkowski, one of the best tight ends to ever play this game, is icing on the cake. You can go too tight or three tight in this offense and still be dangerous through the air. And what's that mean? You can't stack the box against Ronald
Exactly.
Jones.
You
He's
have to
going to
be
have
legit.
lanes. Yep, he's going to have lanes. He's going to be able to hit those lanes. And I agree with you, Eugene. While again, not as sold as him as a receiver, I think he's going to have a big year out of the backfield for sure.
Yeah. And listen, Pat, you'll come back to this. I promise you'll come back to this video. Just what I've seen from him as a pro, right, from Ronald Jones. I think he's underrated. I really believe that. And I think what people look at is how unnatural it looks when he's catching the ball and moving forward. What I'm looking at is speed in space. And I, again,
Oh, once he catches the ball, Eugene, there's no question about it. He's a weapon. But I'm telling you, I've been at practice on a lot of
yeah,
afternoons, and I thought to myself, man,
why is that?
I might have looked better reaching out to catch that football. I know Peyton Barber. I love Peyton Barber, and Peyton Barber on days looked much better as a pass catcher out of the backfield.
Uh-huh.
But the guy that you want with the ball in his hands once he makes that catch, that's Ronald Jones. I think he's going
Right.
to be a decent receiver in this league. I don't know that he'll ever be looked at as a major weapon catching the football.
Well, and that's the thing. We kind of go back to the quarterback position because I really believe, and again, I'm going to preface this by saying I've been a huge Jameis Winston fan.
Me
Huge
too.
Jameis Winston fan. And, I've been so supportive of him, regardless of what his previous Sunday game was. I've always been very supportive. But I have to tell you right now, Tom Brady and his decision making is on another level. You're talking about an offensive coordinator under center who's able to make these decisions. So where we didn't see a lot of tight end play last year, I think that with him coming in, I think that was one of the prefaces that he would be able to do that, and I really believe we'll get a lot more play out of the tight end position. In turn, that's going to give your running back an opportunity to get to catch balls out of the backfield. And speed and space with a Ronald Jones, as violent as he runs when he does get the ball, I'm just excited to see what he's going to do. I could be wrong here, but I really believe, like I said, that this guy he's going to surprise some people this year.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I think the guy getting him the ball is going to surprise some people this year.
Yeah.
And I do think the underneath stuff, to your point, Eugene, is going to be utilized a little bit more than it has last season and certainly before that. I think the tight ends certainly will be utilized more than they were last season. However, I think what people are discounting a little bit is Tom Brady's not just ability, but maybe desire to throw the ball around a little bit. Not what they did in New England, right? But everybody talks about Tom Brady like he's 100 years old and he can't throw the football 40 yards down the field. I can tell you that he can, but Eugene, you know this. You rarely do
Yeah.
that in this league. Your explosive plays, most of your explosive plays are coming from passes that go 20 to 25 yards downfield, and then the receiver makes a play to turn it into bigger yards. So can Tom Brady throw the ball 20, 25 yards downfield to Mike Evans, to Chris Godwin, to, by the way, Tyler Johnson? We don't even mention Tyler
Yeah,
Johnson.
we haven't even gotten to that point yet.
I think this kid's going to be a weapon. I really do. I think when you talk about the explosive plays in this league, and you know this, like I said, they're coming from 20 to 25 yards downfield, and then a guy makes a play. And Tom Brady can complete those passes all day long. So while we talk about some of the underneath stuff and how he's really going to take advantage of that in a way that this offense probably hasn't in a little while, he's going to surprise. I think he's going to surprise some people as well by going over the top and beating you when when you don't think he can.
Yeah, and to that point, think about this. You look at the level of talent that he had last year in New England and compare that to what he's walking into here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people said, oh, he's lost a step. He's old. He did this, blah, 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 blah. I look at the level of talent he had surrounding him, and he was still able to make plays. He was still able to keep his team competitive with the limited talent that he had. And now you look at what he has now here. I it makes you think, okay, this guy has a lot. I mean, he's gone from bottom tier to top tier when you're looking at wide receivers. He's gone from bottom tier to
Yeah.
top tier when you're looking at tight ends, and then just everybody else surrounding him. Um, I really believe that Tom Brady's in a better situation, and I couldn't think of a better place for Tom Brady to be than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When I look at everybody else in free agency, everybody else that needed quarterbacks, I have to come back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the supporting cast, not just on offense, but on defense, and what they have and how potentially they could be a competitive team for years to come.
Well, you know what? You're right, and I agree with you. And it's funny because everybody talks about Tom Brady last year and maybe the fall off and maybe some of the numbers that weren't Tom Brady esque. A lot of people seem to forget how explosive that offense looked when they had Antonio Brown for a
Oh
short
my
time. And by the
God,
way,
yes.
not got your bleep together, head on straight Antonio Brown, but out his damn mind cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs Antonio Brown. And they still looked explosive with that knucklehead on the field.
Yeah.
He's got players that are not just better. Well, maybe they're not better than Antonio Brown, but they're sure as hell smarter and they get their heads screwed on straight. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think, that, like you said, the weapons are here for him. He is efficient. This is an offense that's going to be really difficult to stop. And if the defense continues to turn that corner, it started to turn last year, and I
Yeah.
expect it to. Because you got a lot of guys that last year were first and second year corners, are now second and third year corners. I love Winfield Jr. At the safety position. I really think this defense might take a step forward. As I mentioned earlier, Vita Vea, I think we see him take another big step. Devin White, I think we may see him become the best player on this defense. The defense has a real opportunity to be better than people think. And if they are, I don't know how people beat this team. They're going to be
Yeah.
really tough to stop.
And again, folks, if you're just joining me, I'm here with with Pat Donovan from iHeartRadio from the Pat and Aaron Show. Real good friend of the show. Pat, you stole my thunder because that's kind of the direction I was going is with the defense. What we saw last year was a defense that bought into what the defensive coordinator what's
Todd
going
Bowles.
on with Todd Bowles. They bought in collectively and they got better. When you look at the mid-season and you look at the back end of the season and what they did, and then you compare that to where they started in the beginning of the season, this is not the same defense. And the one thing that, and these are where my expectations are, you've got a core group of players, Levante David, Vita Vea, JPP, Shaq Barrett, so on and so on. Sean Murphy Bunting, and all these players have a year of Todd Bowles defense under their belt, and they're ready to go in and play. The beauty of this is you can plug and play certain players in, and you can upgrade in certain positions and put this team in a position to where they can be successful. And what I expect from this team, and I could be wrong, but I expect for this team to pick up where they left off because you know what? You're familiar with it. I mean, your core, everybody in your core is familiar with it. And the people that aren't can pick up the slack as the season goes on. And the key right now is injuries, making sure that your team is healthy when they can go out on the field. If you've got a healthy team that can go on the field with a year of experience under this defensive coordinator under their belt, I see a scary problem for a lot of offensive coordinators as they try to approach this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team.
No, you're right. And you mentioned all the great pieces we have on the inside when it comes to linebacker and defensive line. But for this defense to really be great, it's those second and third year corners, as we mentioned, that really have to take the next step. And what I like about this group, Eugene, here's the thing, and I'm going to take it off the football field for a minute because I think this stuff matters a little bit. They're great athletes all over the place.
Right.
One of the greatest athletes I've ever seen never sniffed college football, let alone the NFL. And I played with a guy who played in the NFL for almost a decade. So that will tell you about how good this other guy was, but he never sniffed the NFL. There are great athletes all over the place. But
Mhm.
when it gets to the NFL level, what often separates guys, Eugene? It's intelligence and it's character. You like,
Yep.
yeah, like you're pointing at, like the head up, right? And
Yep.
oh, I apologize if that came through. When I think about this defensive backfield and some of the young men that they're starting to develop back there, and I think about a Sean Murphy Bunting who you saw a couple weeks ago, looking around at the kind of the atmosphere and saying, you know what, I'm going to do something good. I'm gonna be a good person today. And he went out and he bought a smoothie for a police officer and just said, "Hey man, listen, I appreciate what you do." By the way, when the police officer introduced himself to Sean Murphy Bunting, Sean Murphy Bunting said, "My name is Sean." He didn't say I'm Sean Murphy Bunting from the
Yeah.
Buccaneers. He didn't try to make a point of it. The cop had to find out on his own after the fact that that's who it was. And I just think it shows a ton of character. And you look at Carlton
Yeah.
Davis just a little while before that, and he spoke out about some of the social injustice that's going on in this country. And he spoke out about the fact that people were protesting, but he said, "Hey, listen, man, I love that we're protesting. I love that we're saying that we need to be recognized and we need to stand up for ourselves. But
Mhm.
let's do it in a smart way. Let's do it in an intelligent way. Let's not go out there and be destructive. Let's go out there and be intelligent." And when I think about the character and the intelligence that they have with those young men at that position, I just think
Yeah.
about the fact that those are the kind of guys that can pick up a Todd Bowles scheme and use that athleticism that every guy in this league has. Every guy in this league has that athleticism. So when you have that integrity, that intelligence, that drive, and that character that these two young men have shown on top of that athleticism, it makes me really optimistic about the cornerback position, and that's the only position right now that we have any question marks about. So if those two young men are the young men I think they are, and take the steps that I think they will, again, you look at this whole defense, and listen, there are going to be mistakes. When you're as young
Right.
as this defense is, there are
Yeah.
going to be mistakes. But there are also going to be some games where you're going, wow, look at these kids play.
Yeah. And this is the thing, Pat, if you think about this, let's rewind 3 years ago. And we were talking about the secondary, and it's like, here, I need to do a shot before we even talk about the secondary because they're just that bad. And I mean, you know what, let's go back to 2014. The secondary was horrible. They were atrocious. And they've just never gotten better. And I attribute a lot of that to coaching because once Todd Bowles got in here, and again, this is one of those where my expectations are very high. I've seen what Todd Bowles can do with a defense, and I really believe that they have the core in place. From the defensive line all the way back to the secondary. I really believe that they have a squad in place where they can do some big things. And you mentioned Winfield. I think he's a guy who can successfully transition into this secondary and do nothing but help this team get better. So,
Yeah. I think he's a
where
day one starter.
yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I thought he was the steal of the draft. Like when you talk about Chris Godwin, I thought Chris Godwin was a steal of the whole draft as a whole. I thought he was a steal of the draft. That's kind of how I feel with Winfield. I feel like this is a guy who could potentially be the steal of the draft. He should
I
have
think Tyler
been.
Johnson. I think Tyler Johnson has a shot too, though,
Yeah,
because this is a young man with the size to play on the outside.
yeah,
And Eugene, you know how much the Bucks love moving Chris Godwin inside at
yeah.
that slot position. And when they move him inside, for me, I expect it to be Tyler Johnson on the outside. And because you're going to be focused on Chris Godwin, probably 1, 2, or a couple tight ends that just scare the hell out of you as well. Oh, and by the way, Mike Evans is over there. There are
Yeah.
going to be some opportunities for Tyler Johnson to make his impact this year.
So is Tyler Johnson your number 3 receiver?
Yes, because and listen, Aaron loves Scotty Miller, and I think he's a little white guy, and Tom Brady loves him some little white guys. At least he did in New England. But look, I'm sorry, you like to move Chris Godwin into the slot. You don't want a guy Scotty Miller's size playing on the outside. A
No.
guy Tyler Johnson's size, 6'1", he can slide right over there on the outside. And again, when you're focused on Chris Godwin, when you're focused on Mike Evans, when you're focused on a Rob Gronkowski or Cam Brate or O.J. Howard, Tyler Johnson's going to have some room to roam.
Somebody's getting loose.
Yeah, and you saw the play made right there at Raymond James Stadium in the Outback Bowl last year.
Exactly.
The kid's got hands. He's the best receiver we've seen come out of Minnesota in 1,000 years. I think the kid's got a lot of talent. That's not, Minnesota. They throw the ball. You know what I mean? But they don't throw the
Yeah.
ball the way the NFL teams throw the
No,
ball, the way
not
that
even
the
close.
Buccaneers are going to throw the ball. And he was the best receiver on that team, right?
Yeah,
He's
and that's
the
scary,
third.
right? That's scary in
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. I'm very high on Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, and again, just having gone back and watching some of his play, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think that he's going to secure that number 3 position as well. I think that what this sets up for is a guy like a Scotty Miller. You could set him up on a 9 route, and you've got a guy that can get loose as well. Just have him running that go route, and with his speed. And we've seen this. We've seen what he can do. So there are a lot of people that, you know, normal, you look at your NFL.com or the ESPNs or some of your other networks. They're not keyed in like you are or myself or some of your other podcasts are. But there are some players on this team that are going to be a problem for defensive coordinators. And I do believe that Scotty Miller will be one of those guys. I don't believe he'll be the number 3 receiver, but I think he will contribute to this offense.
Yeah, a lot of guys are going to have opportunities to contribute because it's going to be so difficult to cover this team.
Yeah.
When you reference the kind of decision maker that Tom Brady is. When you've got a decision maker like Tom Brady, the guy who's seen every single defense you can throw at him 5 times, and he's going to be able to look over that defense. And I don't care who it is, Eugene. I don't care who it is. There is not a defense in the NFL, not one defense in the NFL that the Buccaneers can't line up against and take advantage of some mismatches because they've got too
100%.
many weapons, too much speed, too much size, too much power. And by the way, as you said, the decision maker to make it all happen, they are going to be a problem for everyone in this league. I don't know how they're stopped offensively. And again, if the defense is even half as good as they were last year, and I expect them to be better, it's a good football
Yeah.
team, man.
Yeah, and it's scary. Think about this. You got JPP at the beginning of the season. You
It's
didn't
my
have
dude.
JPP for I don't know how many games was he out? Like 6?
Almost half the season. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost half the season, I think.
Yeah, that's scary to think about this guy and on his mind is what Shaq Barrett did. He wants to top what Shaq Barrett did. So to me, I mean, there's just so many different scenarios in here. And honestly, it would be a travesty of justice if the season didn't progress. We didn't have some sort of
Don't
NFL
don't
season.
don't even
Oh, sorry,
don't
sorry,
don't even put it out. Don't even put it out in the air. Don't even
yeah,
put it out there.
sorry.
Just don't.
Just I'm
No, you
taking
don't.
that back and putting that
Don't
back
put
in
it
there
out
again.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but listen, Jason Pierre-Paul, man, what a surprise this guy has been. I grew up, Eugene, and you probably know this. I grew up a New York Giants fan, so I have a lot
Right.
of experience with Jason Pierre-Paul. And a lot of the talk when he was in New York was maybe sometimes he was lazy. Maybe he wasn't, while he was a great player, maybe he wasn't the most vocal leader or the best leader in the
Mm-hmm.
group. And then he got here, and you know what he did? He told us all that he wasn't a leader. He
Right.
sat there one of the first days that we got to speak to Jason Pierre-Paul and said, I am not a vocal leader. That's not what I do. It's not who I am. I lead by example. I go out there and I work, and that's what I do. But you know what he did? When he noticed that locker room and he noticed a guy like Vernon Hargraves talking about, in his words, quote unquote, sleeping with white chicks after games, right? Like, he got in his ass, man. He's
Yeah.
like, you can't do that. No,
Yeah.
that ain't how we do things. So with Jason Pierre-Paul, who told us, I am not a vocal leader. That's not what I do. It's exactly what he did. He became a vocal leader
Yeah.
because he realized that's what this football team needed at the time. And again, when
He
he
led
got
by
here,
example.
I loved Jason Pierre-Paul for everything
Yeah.
I'd seen from him for his career. But not only was he everything I expected from Jason Pierre-Paul, he's been so much more.
Right.
He's been such a great leader for this football team.
Right.
After telling us that's not what he would be, I'm
Right.
such a big Jason Pierre-Paul guy.
Yeah, and another guy that never gets the credit he deserves is Indomitian Sue, and
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. This is off season. I can say this stuff. I'll take the criticism later on. I was happier with Indomitian Sue than I was with Gerald McCoy in the back end of his season, in the back end of his career as a Buccaneer, just because of his mentality and his approach to the game was a little bit different. I felt like there were players on this team that were comfortable with losing. and I could be wrong.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I could be wrong, but in just my perception of what I saw after the game was over, after certain things had occurred, that I felt like there were players on this team that were okay. We lost. We'll get them next time. No, you should be. There's got to be a different approach, and I really feel like with Bruce Arians, with Byron Leftwich, with Todd Bowles, with some of the free agents that they've brought in that have been successful, they've got a different approach to everything. Even Shaq Barrett. I look at Shaq Barrett. Here's another guy that I really believe that has a different approach to it. Hey, we want to win. We want to win now. And I believe that they're in a position to do some things this year defensively that the Bucks haven't seen going back to 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the Hall of Famers on the club that
I
they
won't
did.
say that, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
but that mentality, we want to do
Oh,
more
no doubt.
because when you look at this defense, the defense has been somewhat of a letdown when it comes to holding leads. I mean, we can go back to 2008, 2009, and there were times where the Bucks had an opportunity to win games, but the defense couldn't close out the games, and we've seen that consistently from that point forward. And it's just one of those things. I believe that this defense is cut a little bit different than some of the defenses we've seen over the last decade.
Well, you mentioned Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul. What we saw to Shaq Barrett, which was hidden in Denver because he was hiding behind some great players. Yeah, you've got some dog on this football team
Yeah.
that just wasn't there a couple
Yeah.
years ago. You look at a guy like Levante David, and while he's not a vocal guy, he's not a guy that's maybe going to get in everybody's ass when it's time to get people fired up the way Jason Pierre-Paul has shown us that he will do. He's been a guy that's been like really the only guy with that kind of dog on this football team.
Yeah.
He's been the only guy that like it didn't really matter what was happening in the game. It didn't really matter what the score was. Levante David was out there all the time playing with that dog. And you didn't have that for many guys on this team for a long even listen, I'm more of a pro Gerald McCoy guy than a lot of people are, but I didn't always see that dog from Gerald. Okay.
No.
I just did. There's a lot of guys on this team that came through that they cared about football. They loved that. They love football. They just didn't have that kind of dog that Levante David has. But now they've got several guys that do, and you can see the difference. And by the way, we talked about that young cornerback group. I think they got some dog too, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I mean, Sean Murphy Bunting really. Jamel Dean is another guy. We haven't mentioned his name, but you got to mention Jamel Dean. His name has to be put out there as well.
Yep.
He's 100% healthy. These are guys that I believe will quietly silence the critics about this Bucks secondary this year if they can 100% stay healthy.
I think you're right. I think that again, it's going to take that pass rush, but I expect that to be better. And I know they'd have to move some money around.
Mm-hmm.
I have this fantasy, and I know that some people want Devontae Freeman on the offensive side of the ball, but I look at those golden locks, man, and I think Clay Matthews, Eugene has played inside linebacker. He's played outside linebacker. He had 8.5 sacks last year.
He would be a really nice fit for this Todd Bowles defense.
And you said the words Todd Bowles, and that's why. And listen, Eugene, I think there's a lot of places where Clay Matthews could go and have a year. But when I think about his flexibility and the flexibility of some of the other guys on this defense and the brilliance of Todd Bowles being able to move those pieces around, I just think he'd be a perfect fit here. But listen, I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to get out to the wife who's hanging out in the living room and wants to watch a little TV.
All right, real quick.
Always fun talking football with you, my friend.
Yeah, my friend, I appreciate that. Real quick, can I get 1 minute of your time? I have 10 questions that I'm gonna hit you with.
I like it.
And this is the hot seat. I do this to all my guests. And,
are they all football?
They are all football, my friend. All football.
Man, you need to switch it up a little bit, man. Start asking people about some hip hop or some food or some other shit too.
We'll, you know what? The next time I have you on, we will do this. All right. So, what I have 10 questions. I'm gonna hit you with 10 questions. You have a minute to answer the questions, and we'll just go from here. And what I'll do is ask you the first question, and then we'll go on, and I'll start the clock once you start the first question.
So
So
rapid fire.
here we go. First question: Madden or NFL 2K?
Oh, Madden.
What wins championships, offense or defense?
Man, I always love defense, and it should be defense, but it's 2020, it's offense, bro. I hate it.
Dungy or Gruden?
Can I say Duden? I think listen, man. This team probably doesn't win a championship without both those guys in their past. So let me get a little bit of Duden.
Okay, there we go. Dome or open air stadiums?
Oh, open air.
NFL Network
even in Tampa, Florida.
NFL Network or ESPN?
Oh, NFL Network all day. Rich Eisen. Remember when NFL Network first came out and they had the commercial where Rich Eisen grabbing the big steak at the lineman with the offensive lineman? It was like, it doesn't suck to be Rich Eisen. I want to be Rich Eisen since.
Pocket passer or running quarterback?
Pocket passer, because I'm scared to death of my quarterback being a weapon and getting hurt.
Ground and pound or air assault?
Oh man, ground and pound. I'll give you 4 yards and 4 yards in a cloud of dust any day. I love that stuff.
NFL
Old
Europe.
school.
NFL in Europe, yes or no?
Only if it's NFL Europe. Remember NFL Europe?
Yep, I remember it.
Galaxy and some of those teams, but not our teams over there. Keep them over here.
Big hit or long TD?
Big hit, man. I like the thumpers. And I worry about brain damage, but I like the thumpers.
Okay, last question. Who has the higher football IQ, you or Aaron?
Oh, me? And Aaron will tell you that all day long. Listen, I will tell you this. Aaron has a higher IQ, I would imagine, especially when it comes to history and important stuff about our country. I don't give a damn about a lot of that stuff. Just give me the football. He's got the higher IQ. He's got the higher IQ on baseball, probably every other sport. But when it comes to football IQ, he'll tell you all day.
There we go. All right. Hey, again, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you getting on. Goon Squad, I got my Goon Squad shirt on.
I love it.
Trying to get this beer here in Arizona. I want to try this beer. I'm working with some distributors to see what I can come up with. Then telling me about the burger. We have to get offline, again and talk about this burger. I would really love to try this, just because, I'll
just tell you this. You got to get to Tampa, Mermaid Tavern in Seminole Heights.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. You bring your ass from Arizona. The burger's on me. Three seasoned patties, white, aged white cheddar, remoulade sauce, a little tomato, some greens. But here's the kicker. Here's what makes it a Goon Squad IPA burger.
Okay.
They take pickled jalapenos and they beer batter them in the Goon Squad IPA to put on the burger. And I'm telling you, it is money.
Wow.
It's legit.
I am all for it. Well, Pat, thank you so much. Again, folks, if you're just joining us, I have Pat Donovan on from iHeartRadio, Pat and Aaron Show. You guys know him here in the Bay Area. A friend of the show. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on and taking time with us. And I'm going to let you get back to your wife. Tell her I said thank you from Buck What You Heard for, taking the time to come on with us.
You got it, my brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend. Thank you. All right, folks, that was Pat Donovan, again, one of the friends of the show, taking the opportunity to come on with me and, talk a little bit about, what's going on in the off season. What I'm going to do, I do have a little bit of time left, so I'm actually going to jump off here in the chat and see what's happening here. Again, Andy Finley from Scotland. From Glasgow, Scotland. He's like a brother to me. I appreciate him. When you talk about the Buckaholics all over the world, and again, Andy Finley is in the UK. Andy Finley is one of the captains over there in the UK, so it's really exciting. Rex Dillon from the Buckaholics. Here's a guy who is part of the Arizona Buckaholics. If you're outside of the Tampa area, I'm sure there is a Buckaholics group or a captain in your area. I would, I'm not big on Facebook, but if you do get a chance to get on Facebook, find the Buckaholics and just kind of reach out to them and see who's in your area, man. I think that's pretty exciting that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a fan base as broad as what we do. It's really exciting. Again, what's up, T. Smitty, Frank G, Will the Brewer, Steve Munoz. Again, guys, Kwame Richardson, Shooter in the Stash, Buck Skull Gang in the house. All you guys, thank you so much. I know the chat's been kind of limited tonight. Again, there's not, with us approaching camp where there's a lot of uncertainty right now. We don't know what's going to happen. But again, it's exciting. It's exciting times right now when you look at the quarterback situation, when you look at the defense that the Buccaneers have. I honestly believe it would be a travesty of justice if the Buccaneers did not get to play this season. It's one of those things. It's got to happen. I'm looking forward to it. Regardless of what happens. You have a quarterback like a Tom Brady who is working with the offense and, trying to come up with that cohesion there. It's going to be a great season. Shout out to the Goon Squad members. And again, I will eventually be in Tampa. My granddaughter is, I just had a granddaughter in May. Because of this COVID-19, I have not been able to get down to Tampa to see her, but it's going to happen sooner or later, and hopefully sooner, where I can get down and, hopefully, meet up with some of you guys. I think it would be great. With everything that's going on with COVID-19, please be safe. I know a lot of people don't want to wear a mask, but please, if you get a chance, wear a mask. Look out for your brother next to you, and let's try to plateau this out, or we're try to flatten the curve here to where we can get things back to normal. I know it's kind of an inconvenience having to do these things, but these things could definitely benefit all of us. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. Again, if you get a chance, check this out. Our special guest, my special guest today was Pat Donovan from the Pat and Aaron Show from iHeartRadio. And again, just taking the opportunity to come on with me is greatly appreciated. I will try to get Aaron on as well. I love talking with that guy, and it is great to be able to do that. Will the Brewer, thank you so much. I appreciate that, bro. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of here. I know we had a little bit of a delay issues earlier on, but I think we're in good shape right now. To everybody that was in the chat, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We will get back to Wednesdays, where the show was originally, and we'll keep getting guests on here to keep you guys entertained. So once again, thank you so much, and I can't stress enough. Thank you, Pat Donovan, for taking the time to come on. It's been greatly appreciated. And that's pretty much it for me. I'm out. You will get the show on iTunes. I will be on Libsyn, putting the show out to everybody here shortly. As well, I shouldn't say shortly. As soon as YouTube makes it available, where I can download that MP4 and get everything downloaded like I should. But final thoughts, guys. Everybody, we need to be taking care of each other. We want to get back to normalcy. So, whatever you can do to make things better, please do your part to help take care of everybody. And that's pretty much